This is English Literature Web YouTube channel. This channel uploads the videos on English literature, English grammar, English phonetics and phonology, English speaking course. Today we are discussing on the topic dialect and idiolect. Language is personal and related with an individual. Remember, when we think of the dialect or idiolect, then we should think of the language, because dialect and idiolect both are produced by the language. So language is personal. Personal means what? Language is spoken by a person. Means language differs from person to person. That's why language is called personal. And related with an individual, it means it is the property of the individual person. It means that the individual person decides to speak his language. Means the language changes from person to person. Means the language is spoken and written very differently by persons and persons, because one man writes and speaks differently and the second man also speaks and writes differently, and that's why the language is individual and personal. Every individual use words and sentences as they are available for him. It means that every individual person or every person or each and every person, every man uses the language. It means that he or she uses the words and sentences which are available for them. Because if that person is from the village, he will speak the language of the village. Or if that person is living in the urban area or metropolitan area, then that person or that woman, or suppose that man or woman, will speak the language as per the language available for them. Means the metropolitan person will talk English, but the person who is from a village, he will talk his native language. And that's why it is said that every individual use words and sentences as they are available for him or her. Means all the words and sentences make the language, and this language is available for every man. But this language is available as per the area, and as per this area, this language becomes the language of the particular person or individual. He or she gives a specific meaning to the word as per his or her experience. It means that if there is a person, that person gives the specific meaning, means the particular meaning or the exact meaning or the meaning according to that person. That is called the specific meaning. Means he gives the specific meaning, the particular meaning to the word. Means he understands that word, or he takes the meaning of that word as per his experience or as per his capacity or ability. And in this way, that person speaks his language or writes his language. He or she pronounces it, means the language, in his own particular way or style or tone. Means remember, the person speaks that particular language with the help of the words and the sentences in the particular way, style or tone. Means the language differs, or the language is spoken by the persons in the sense of the different tones or different styles or different ways. If the particular person is from the metropolitan city, he speaks the language English very highly, or he speaks that language with particular pronunciations, but the persons from the village area, he speaks that English with the pronunciations which are rather I will say rather ignorant or backward or uneducated pronunciations. So he pronounces the language in his style, or she pronounces the language in her style, or they develop their own style of speaking and writing the particular language. For example, we will say that some persons pronounce which word, which, WHICH is the word, and this word is spoken by some persons as whiched. Means there are some persons who speak this word, means which, WHICH, which is spoken as whiched, and guarantee is the word which is spoken by some persons as guarantee. Means these are the pronunciations of the persons which are made by them as per their experiences, or as per their uh, effect of the mother tongues, or as per the area effect. And that's why it is very correct that the person takes the particular way, style or tone to speak his or her language. This manner of the speakers gives variations individually. Remember, when the persons speak their languages, or when they write their languages, there are the differences, or there are the variations, or there are the changes individually means what? I will say personally means what? When we will give one sentence to write, this gentleman, he will write the sentence in a different structure, and the second person will write that structure in a different way. So that's why it is said that the manner of the speakers gives variations individually, and there is no exact communication of the words. Remember, many times what happens, there is no exact communication. Means the exact communication never happens, because some people or speakers are ignorant, uneducated in talking their English. That's why there is no exact communication of the words. Means we do not hear clearly their pronunciations, and that's why there is no exact communication of the words, or we cannot understand properly the meanings of those words, because that person says which, then we cannot understand what this gentleman is talking. He says guarantee, so we cannot exactly understand what he wants to say. So such type of problems occur in front of the listener. That is the point. The word is not pronounced as it should be pronounced. Means these persons do not pronounce the words as they should be pronounced. Means as per the phonetics and phonology, these persons do not speak the words, because there is the received pronunciations of English, and these received pronunciation is there, and that's why because of this received pronunciation from the British English, we speak our language or words. Means there is the particular pronunciation method, but these people do not follow these pronunciations, and that's why the communication or the discussion becomes very difficult for the listener as well as the speaker. Still, there happens a communication between person and person. Still, there happens a communication, discussion between person and person. It means that though these persons do not pronounce properly the words and sentences, still there is the communication. Means still we can understand their languages. Why? Because we know those languages, because we have that habit also, and only because of those habits we learn their languages. And the second reason is that there remains a body of agreement. Remember, there is the body of agreement. Agreement means there is the agreement between the persons. Means when that person speaks, we do the particular agreement, and that agreement is of the area agreement, or that agreement is that we also know the effect of that area, or we also know the effect of his mother tongue. And that's why there remains a body of agreement, that is, there are some common or equal features in the meanings. Remember, in the meanings of those words, in the meanings of those sentences, there are some common things or some equal things are there, and because of those equal things, or because of those gestures, I will say, we understand the meanings and pronunciations of those persons. Again, we understand their pronunciations because their pronunciations are up to some extent equal or common to our pronunciations, because as we say, in this way a little bit is spoken by those persons also. It means that when we say which, that person says which, then we can understand which and which. In this way we understand their pronunciations also, and the constructions of the sentences also we can understand easily, because we know that the sentence is prepared with the structure of SVOC pattern. Means subject is there, verb is there, object is there, complement is there, and all these things we know very well, and that's why we understand the particular sentence or word of that gentleman who is talking with us. Though that gentleman is uneducated in pronunciations, in meanings, or in the constructions of the sentences, still we understand it, or we understand his or her sentences, and thus the communication goes possible. It means that we do the communication with that gentleman, or that gentleman makes the communication with us very nicely, and the communication between the two persons becomes very possible. And so the language gets popular in groups, and that's why this language becomes very popular in the groups. Remember, this language in this way becomes very popular in the groups, because there are the groups of the languages. Means there are the groups, I will say, there are the groups of the rural people, there are the groups of some villages are there which are full of the language, rather different language. Means I will say, southern area will speak the southern language, northern area will speak the northern language. In this way, this language is spoken area wise or group wise, and it becomes a social group. And in this way, this language makes the social group, or this dialect makes the social group and a social phenomenon. And in this way there happens a social phenomenon, a social group, and social, I will say, the social context, and people come together to speak such language. Thus the speech of the individual is called idiolect, and in this way such a speech is called the idiolect. Remember again, thus the speech of the individual, means if that individual is speaking something, that speech is called the idiolect. The group of individuals has the commonality of language in the way of speaking words, sentences, and meanings. Remember, when the persons speak a language, there is the equality in words, sentences, and meanings, and that's why we understand that language. And so we make the groups of such people, because when the illiterate person comes before us and he speaks his language, then we understand that language also. Means he, his friends, and we and our friends. In this way it becomes a group of the language. Means we understand his language or her language also. The commonality of language of such a group and individuals has a dialect, and so it is said that such groups are created by the speakers, and such groups speak the particular language which is called the dialect. Remember, what is the dialect? The dialect is the particular language of the group. Means the language speaks that the group speaks that language, and the language of that group becomes the dialect. Thus, the particular form of a language of the specific region or social group is called the dialect. So, it is very clear now that the dialect is the particular form of language of the specific region. Specific region, it means that there are some specific areas, and those areas or the people of those areas speak the specific language, and that specific language of the specific region or social group is called the dialect. For example, Cantonese in the Chinese language. This is the southern Chinese dialect, and this dialect is spoken in the southern China, and this is the particular group of the speakers, and they speak this language, and that's why it is very clear that the language of the particular group is called the dialect. Then in Maharashtra there is Marathi language, and in Marathi there is the Irani language, and this Irani language is spoken in the area of Dhule district, Nandurbar district. In this way, this Irani is the particular dialect of the area people in Marathi in Maharashtra, and these people speak this Irani, and this Irani is the particular dialect of the language. But when this Irani person speaks with the person of Jalgaon district or the person of Buldhana district, then that person of the Buldhana district also knows the meanings and I will say pronunciations of that Irani person. Means easily that person also understands that language. Then we will say that Northern American says hello, and Southern American says howdy. Remember, Northern American says hello, and Southern American says howdy. So these are the two words, hello and howdy. These are the two pronunciations which are the different pronunciations as per the area. But when we listen to these meanings or these pronunciations, then easily we understand all these pronunciations. There is the difference between the dialects above. In this way, there is the difference between the dialects above, means the dialects which we have just explained. There is the difference between these dialects also, because the dialects are different from each other, and these dialects are area-wise dialects. So, dialect is a sub form of language. Remember, this dialect is not the main language. It is the sub form of the language, or it is one of the types of the language. Means it is a type of the language. It is not the main language. In English, the major dialects are British Isles. Suppose there is the dialect, and that dialect is In English, the major dialects are British Isles dialects, Australian English, Irish English, Indian English, Canadian English. In this way, there are the types of English also. Actually, English is the main language, but this English is spoken by the areas in the form of the dialects. So, which are the dialects? Now, we will say British dialect. There is the Canadian dialects. There is the Indian dialect. There is the Irish dialect. There is the Australian dialect. In this way, there are many dialects, I will say, as per the language. But the main language is main language, and the dialects are area wise. Dialects is thus a peculiar way of speaking of a regional group of a society. It means that the regional group of the society means the particular group of the society. Regional group means it is the area, and in that area there is the group, and that group speaks this language, and this is called the dialect or dialect. So remember, dialect is thus a particular way of speaking of a regional group of a society. It is standard or substandard, or it is non-standard also. So remember, the dialects are standard or non-standard also. Means they are urban, they are from the city, they are from the towns also, or they are rural, means they are from the villages also. As the variety of people's mother tongues, and it is very clear that the dialects are related with the variety of mother tongues. Means this dialect is spoken by the speakers with the influence of their mother tongue. Means they speak the dialects as their mother tongue was being spoken by their forefathers, and that is the effect which has come to them, and only because of that effect this dialect is spoken by those persons, and that's why this dialect is called the standard or non-standard dialect, or this dialect is the urban dialect, or this dialect is the rural or town dialects, I will say. The dialect is learned by the child in childhood. Remember, very important thing is here is that this dialect becomes or starts from the birth of a child. Means that child starts speaking this dialect from his family, means from his mother. So that is called the mother language, or that is called the mother tongue. Means his mother makes him understand that language, and that's why it is said that the dialect is learned by the child in childhood. Accent and dialect are different from each other or from one another. It means that accent is there. Accent means, I will say, the particular stress, the particular pronunciation, that is called accent. And dialect means, we have just seen that it is the way of speaking, means there is no accent and there is no pronunciation, that is called the dialect. So this dialect and this accent are very much different from one another or from each other. That is the point. Accent is the way of pronouncing words and sentences. Means accent is called the method of pronouncing the words and sentences, and dialect is related with the vocabulary, grammar and pronunciations. Means when the speaker speaks his dialect, that dialect is related with vocabulary, with grammar and with pronunciation of the language or of that word. So here today we have finished our topic dialect and idiolect. In the next topic we will see the next topic. So here I am Professor L.B. Gayakawad. Stops here with your leave. Thank you very much.